Have you ever hated someone instantly? For no clear reason? Hello. Good evening. Or maybe it's already late at night where you are. Welcome to the Still Point. If you're new here, thank you for finding us. And if you subscribed, you're part of a quiet community now. People who think, who question, who seek. Sometimes I wonder about the lives on the other side of this screen. The cities, the small towns, the different corners of the world where you might be listening. The stories that brought you here. If you ever feel moved, the comments section is there. A quiet place to leave a thought, a moment, a trace of where you are. This is your refuge. For the next hour, the noise stops. The scrolling ends. You don't have to do anything. Just be here. You're safe. Let's begin. We begin with the mask. Jung called it the persona, from the Latin meaning the mask worn by actors in ancient theater, the face you show to the world. But this is not a conscious choice. Not at first. The persona is constructed in childhood, piece by piece, moment by moment, a survival mechanism built from necessity. You were born whole. You were born unfiltered, a raw nerve of pure being. When you were hungry, you screamed. When you were joyful, you laughed without restraint. When you were angry, you raged. There was no gap between feeling and expression. But then, the world began to teach you, not through lectures, but through reactions. Through the tightening of your mother's jaw when you cried too loud. Through the disappointment in your father's eyes when you showed fear. Through the way your teacher's smile disappeared when you asked too many questions. You learned very quickly. You learned that some parts of you were acceptable and some parts were not. Some emotions earned you love and some earned you silence, withdrawal, punishment. So you began the great work of splitting yourself. You began to craft the persona, the acceptable self, the self that could navigate the dangerous waters of family, of school, of society. Think back to the first time you faked a smile. You were perhaps 4 years old. 5. Your grandmother gave you a gift you didn't want. A sweater in a color you hated. But you saw your mother's expectant face. You felt the pressure of the moment. And so you smiled. You said, "Thank you." And something inside you learned that pretending kept you safe. Or the time you were bored, desperately bored, in church or at a dinner party or during a long adult conversation. Your body wanted to run, to scream, to escape. But you learned to sit still, to nod, to look interested. You learned that your authentic response, your true feeling, was unacceptable. Or the time you cried and were told to stop, told that crying was weak, told that big boys don't cry or good girls don't make a fuss. And so you learned to swallow the tears, to push them down somewhere deep, somewhere you wouldn't have to feel them. You learned to suppress your wildness, your loudness, your strangeness, the parts of you that were too much, too intense, too uncomfortable for the people around you. You learned to become smaller, more manageable, more acceptable. And this was not wrong. This was survival. Children are utterly dependent. They cannot afford to be rejected. And so the persona is built, layer by layer, a protective shell, a social face, the version of you that the world could tolerate. But here is what you understood. Here is the terrible physics of the psyche. For every piece you add to the persona, for every trait you polish and display, something else must go into shadow. Imagine a room with a single lamp. The brighter you turn up that lamp, the darker the corners become. The more light you concentrate in one place, the more shadow you create everywhere else. This is the fundamental equation of consciousness. You cannot illuminate everything. You cannot be all things at once. And so the psyche makes a choice. It decides what to show and what to hide, what to keep in the light of awareness and what to bury in darkness. The poet Robert Bly gave us a perfect metaphor. He said, imagine that every child is given a long bag. And as you grow, as you learn what is acceptable, you begin to stuff things into this bag, piece by piece, year by year. You put in all the parts of yourself that you've been taught to disown. Let us look inside this bag. Let us inventory what you've been dragging all these years. You put in your anger, not just anger in the abstract, but the specific rage you felt at your father for never listening, the fury you felt at your mother for always controlling, the hot, red, murderous feeling you had toward a sibling who was favored. That anger was too dangerous, too explosive, so you stuffed it deep into the bag. You put in your greed, your wanting. Do you remember the toy another child had that you coveted with such intensity it made your chest hurt? Do you remember the moment you were told that wanting too much was selfish? And so you learned to minimize your desires, to say, I don't need anything, I'm fine with whatever. But the wanting didn't disappear. It just went into the bag. You put in your jealousy, the sick, green feeling when someone else got the praise you deserved, when someone else was chosen and you were not. Jealousy is so ugly, so petty, so unacceptable. And so you denied it. You smiled and congratulated them. And you stuffed the jealousy deep down where no one could see. You put in your neediness, your desperate, clinging need to be loved, to be held, to be reassured. You learned that need made people uncomfortable, that it drove them away. And so you became independent, self-sufficient. I don't need anyone, you said. But the need remained. Hungry. Hidden. In the bag. You put in your wildness. Your primitive, untamed animal self. The part of you that wanted to howl at the moon. To run naked through the forest. To laugh too loud, to dance too freely. Civilization requires restraint. And so the wild one went into the bag. You put in your cruelty. The moments when you enjoyed someone else's pain. When you felt a dark satisfaction at another's failure. When you wanted to hurt as you had been hurt. This is the part no one speaks of. The sadistic impulse. The shadow of the shadow. But it's there. In the bag. You put in your cowardice. Every time you didn't speak up. Every time you let someone else take the risk. Every time you chose safety over truth. The part of you that is afraid, that runs, that hides. That coward lives in the bag. You put in your laziness. Your resistance to effort. The part of you that just wants to lie down. To give up. To let someone else do the work. Ambition is praised. Laziness is condemned. And so the lazy one goes into the bag. You put in your shame. Your sexuality in its raw form. Your body with its appetites, its fluids, its embarrassing needs. The arousal that came at inappropriate times. The fantasies you could never speak aloud. All of it too much, too dirty, too human. Into the bag. But here's what most people never understand. The shadow is not only made of darkness. It is not only the repository of your worst traits. Because sometimes you also hide your light. Jung spoke of this. He called it the golden shadow. The parts of you that are too bright, too powerful, too much for the world to handle. You put in your creativity, your wild, uncontrollable, artistic vision. You were told to be practical, to be realistic, to stop daydreaming. And so the artist inside you went into the bag. But it didn't die. It just waited in the dark. You put in your intelligence, your piercing, uncomfortable, too perceptive mind. You learned that being too smart made others feel stupid, that asking deep questions made people uncomfortable, that seeing through the social pretense made you unwelcome. And so you dimmed yourself. You played dumb, and your brilliance went into the bag. You put in your sensitivity, your capacity to feel deeply, to be moved by beauty, to weep at music, to sense the unspoken pain in a room. You were told you were too sensitive, too emotional, that you needed to toughen up. And so you built walls. You numbed yourself, and your exquisite sensitivity went into the bag. You put in your power, your natural authority, your capacity to lead, to command, to take up space. But someone was threatened by it. Someone needed you to stay small. And so you learned to shrink, to defer, to apologize for existing. And your power, your kingship, your queenship went into the bag. You put in your joy, your spontaneous, uncomplicated, childlike joy, the part of you that could be delighted by simple things, that could laugh without cynicism, that could play without self-consciousness. But joy makes serious people uncomfortable. And so you learned to be serious, to be appropriate. And your joy, that innocent joy, went into the bag. And now imagine this. You are 5 years old when you start filling this bag. And by the time you are 10, the bag is heavy. By 15, you can barely lift it. By 25, you are dragging it everywhere you go. By 40, the bag weighs more than you do. This is what it means to be civilized. This is what it means to be socialized. You learn to split yourself, to show only the acceptable half, to drag the unacceptable half behind you in a long, heavy, invisible bag. And the exhaustion you feel is not just the exhaustion of your daily tasks. It is not just work or responsibilities or stress. It is the exhaustion of dragging this enormous weight for decades. Feel it now. Feel the weight of it. That heaviness you carry in your chest, in your shoulders, in your gut. That is not metaphorical. That is the somatic reality of the disowned self. That is your shadow making itself known through the only language the unconscious knows, the language of the body. You wake up tired. You go to sleep tired. You drink coffee to push through. You drink wine to numb out. You binge on food, on television, on anything that will distract you from the weight of what you carry. Because here is the terrible truth. The shadow does not go away. You cannot starve it. You cannot ignore it. You cannot outrun it. The more you deny it, the heavier it becomes. The more you reject it, the more energy it demands. Jung said, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Do you hear that? The less you acknowledge it, the blacker it becomes. The more you push it away, the denser, the heavier, the more dangerous it grows. And so you reach midlife, 35, 40, 45, and something begins to crack. The persona that has served you so well begins to feel like a prison. The mask begins to suffocate. The bag becomes unbearable. This is what they call the midlife crisis. But it is not a crisis of aging. It is not about recapturing youth. It is the psyche's rebellion. It is the shadow demanding to be seen, to be heard, to be integrated. You begin to ask dangerous questions. Is this all there is? Is this who I really am? What happened to the person I was supposed to become? Where did my aliveness go? These are the questions of the soul. These are the questions that signal the beginning of the individuation process, the long journey back to wholeness. But first, you must turn around. You must stop dragging the bag. You must open it. You must look inside. You must meet what you have been running from all your life. You must meet your shadow. And that is where the real work begins. Not the work of becoming someone new, but the work of becoming whole, of reclaiming what was always yours, of integrating the disowned parts, of bringing the unconscious into consciousness. This is the hero's journey, not into the outer world, but into the inner one. Not to slay the dragon, but to recognize that you are the dragon, and the knight, and the maiden, and the treasure. All of it. All of you. The bag is growing heavy. Can you feel it? Behind you, dragging, slowing you down, calling to you. It wants to be opened. It wants to be seen. It wants to come home. Are you ready? Are you ready to stop running? Are you ready to turn around and face what you have been so carefully, so diligently, so exhaustingly keeping in the dark? The shadow is waiting. It has been waiting your whole life. Patient, persistent, inevitable. And now it is time. Time to meet yourself. All of yourself. The light and the dark. The gold and the lead. The angel and the demon. Time to become whole. There is a moment in every journey where the path becomes unbearable, where the weight of what you carry finally breaks you. The alchemists knew this moment. They called it the nigredo, the blackening, the stage of decomposition. But before we enter the darkness itself, we must understand the mechanism, the psychological phenomenon that keeps us from ever seeing the bag we drag. Jung called this projection. Projection is the psyche's most cunning defense. It is the unconscious process by which we take the contents of our shadow and throw them onto the screen of another person. We see in them what we cannot bear to see in ourselves. Think of it like this. You walk through the world carrying an invisible projector, a film projector, mounted on your shoulder, and on the film are all the images, all the traits, all the feelings you have locked away. The rage, the greed, the weakness, the shame, all of it recorded on celluloid. And everywhere you go, you are projecting. Unconsciously, constantly, you project onto your partner, onto your colleagues, onto strangers in traffic, onto politicians, onto entire groups of people. You are quite literally seeing yourself, but believing you are seeing them. Have you ever had this experience? You meet someone for the first time. And within seconds, within moments, you hate them. Instantly. Viscerally. You don't know why. They haven't done anything to you. But something about them makes your skin crawl, makes your jaw tighten, makes you want to leave the room. This is projection. That person is a mirror. They're reflecting back some quality, some trait that lives in your shadow. And you hate them because unconsciously you recognize yourself. You see in them what you have spent your entire life trying to hide. Perhaps they are arrogant, and you hate arrogance. You pride yourself on being humble, but deep down, buried in the bag, is your own arrogance, your own grandiosity, your own secret belief that you are superior. And when you see it in them, it enrages you, because it reminds you of what you refuse to own. Or perhaps they are needy, clingy, always seeking attention, and you despise this. You are independent, self-sufficient. You don't need anyone, but in the bag, hidden away, is your own desperate need, your own hunger for love, for validation, for someone to see you. And when you encounter their neediness, you are confronting your own. Or perhaps they are lazy, unmotivated, and this drives you insane. You work hard. You push yourself. You are disciplined. But secretly, in the bag is the part of you that wants to quit, that wants to give up, that is exhausted from striving. And their laziness triggers you because it represents the forbidden rest you will not allow yourself. Or perhaps they are cold, distant, emotionally unavailable, and you judge them harshly. You are warm, open, emotionally expressive, but in the shadow is your own coldness, your own fear of intimacy, your own wall you have built to protect yourself. And their distance reminds you of the distance you keep. This is how projection works. It is automatic, unconscious, invisible. You genuinely believe that the problem is out there, in them. You have no idea that you are seeing a reflection of your own disowned self. And the stronger the reaction, the more intense the judgment, the more certain you can be that you are projecting. Because if it were truly about them, you would feel mild irritation, perhaps disagreement, but not this volcanic rage, not this obsessive hatred, not this compulsive need to destroy them. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Every single thing, every person you despise, every quality you condemn, every behavior you find unforgivable. These are invitations. The psyche is trying to show you what you have hidden. But projection does not only cast shadows. Sometimes we project the gold. Sometimes we see in others the beauty, the brilliance, the power that we cannot claim in ourselves. You idealize someone. You worship them. You think They are extraordinary, talented beyond measure, wise beyond words. And you, in comparison, are ordinary, small, insignificant. But this is also projection. You are seeing in them the unlived potential that exists in you. The guru you follow, the artist you admire, the leader you revere. They carry for you the qualities you have not yet integrated. They hold your disowned greatness, and until you reclaim it, you will remain in their shadow, diminished, dependent, incomplete. Projection is exhausting because it means you are never seeing reality. You are seeing your own psyche reflected in the faces of everyone around you. You are trapped in a hall of mirrors, and you cannot find your way out until you turn around, until you stop looking at them and start looking at yourself. And this is where the Nigredo begins, the moment when projection starts to fail, when the defense starts to crack, when you can no longer maintain the illusion that the problem is out there. The alchemists understood this stage. They worked with lead, heavy, dull, dark, and their task was to transform it into gold. But before transformation could occur, the lead had to be broken down, dissolved, rotted, reduced to its blackest, most putrid state. They called this the Nigredo, the blackening, the stage of decomposition. It was symbolized by the black crow, the raven, the bird of death. It was the descent into the underworld, the night sea journey, the time when everything falls apart. In psychological terms, the Nigredo is depression. It is the dark night of the soul. It is the moment when your old identity, your persona, your carefully constructed self begins to disintegrate, and you have not yet discovered who you are underneath. You feel lost, purposeless. The things that used to motivate you no longer work. The goals that used to drive you feel empty. The roles you used to play feel false. You look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. This is terrifying because the ego depends on structure, on identity, on knowing who it is. And now that structure is collapsing. The ego feels like it is dying, and in a sense, it is. But here is what you must understand. The Nigredo is not a pathology. It is not a mistake. It is not something to fix as quickly as possible. It is a necessary stage, a sacred stage, a stage that cannot be skipped. You cannot build a new self on top of the old one. You cannot integrate the shadow while still clinging to the persona. The false must dissolve before the true can emerge. The lead must rot before it can become gold. And so, the Nigredo asks you to stop running, to stop fixing, to stop distracting, to stop numbing, to simply be with the darkness, to let yourself fall apart, to trust that this dissolution is not the end. It is the beginning. Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain, no shortcut, no bypass, no spiritual technique that will save you from this descent. You must go down. You must enter the underworld. You must meet the beast. And this requires a kind of courage that is rarely spoken of. Not the courage of action, not the courage of heroism, but the courage of stillness, the courage to face what you have been running from, the courage to turn around. Imagine you are walking, and behind you something is following. You can feel it, the presence, the weight, the menace. And so you walk faster. You run. You exhaust yourself trying to stay ahead of it. But it never falls behind. It matches your pace. It is always there, just out of sight. And you are so tired, so desperately tired of running. And then one day something shifts. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's grace. But you stop. You stop running. And slowly, very slowly, you turn around. And you see it. The thing that has been chasing you. The shadow. The beast. And it is terrifying. Yes, it is everything you feared. But it is also something else. It is tired. It is sad. It is waiting. This is the confrontation. The moment when you stop projecting. When you stop blaming. When you stop running. And you simply stand and face the truth of who you are, all of who you are. Jung called this moral courage, not moral in the sense of right and wrong, but moral in the sense of confronting the totality of your being, of refusing to split yourself into good and bad, of claiming all of it, the light and the dark, the noble and the base, the divine and the demonic. This is the withdrawal of projections. This is the moment when you stop seeing your shadow in others and start seeing it in yourself. When you stop saying, "They are angry," and start saying, "I am angry." When you stop saying, "They are weak," and start saying, "I am weak." And this admission is the beginning of freedom. Because as long as the shadow is projected, you are powerless. You are at the mercy of others. You are a victim of their behavior. But when you withdraw the projection, when you take back what is yours, you reclaim your power. You realize that the anger is not being done to you. It is in you. And you can work with it. You can understand it. You can integrate it. The same with your weakness, your greed, your shame, all of it. Once it is inside rather than outside, you can do something with it. But this requires to sit. It requires the willingness to enter the nigredo, to sit in the rot, to let the old self decompose, to trust that what emerges from this darkness will be more real, more whole, more authentically you. The alchemists knew this. They painted images of skeletons, of bodies in graves, of dissolution, of death, not because they were morbid, but because they understood that transformation requires the death of the old form. And so, if you are in the nigredo now, if you are feeling the darkness, the depression, the meaninglessness, know this. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are in the alchemical vessel. You are in the process. You are becoming. The crow is circling. The lead is rotting. The night is deep. But beneath the blackness, something is stirring. Something is being born. You cannot see it yet. You can only feel the pain of the breaking. But trust that the breaking is not the end. It is the opening, the crack in the shell, the wound through which the light will enter, the dissolution of the false so that the true can finally emerge. Stay in the darkness. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the not knowing. This is the holy work. This is the sacred descent. This is the nigredo. And on the other side, there is gold. But first, there must be rot. There must be breakdown. There must be the courage to face what you have been all along. Turn around. Stop running. Look at the beast. It has been waiting for you your whole life. And it is time to bring it home. You have been in the darkness. You have sat with the rot. You have allowed the lead to blacken. And now something begins to shift. The alchemists knew this moment. After the nigredo comes the albedo, the widening, the first light after the longest night. This is not the final stage, not yet the gold, but it is the turning point, the moment when you realize that the darkness was not empty, that the shadow was not only a monster, that hidden within the lead, within the rot, within everything you despised, there was treasure. He understood this with perfect clarity. He said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Not by transcending the shadow, not by rising above it, but by descending into it, by making it conscious, by bringing it into the light of awareness." And when you do this, when you finally turn around and look at what you have been carrying, you make an astonishing discovery. The very things you thought were your weakness are actually your power. The traits you buried are the ones you most need. The gold was always there, hidden in the dark. Let us look closely at this transformation. let us examine the specific ways that shadow becomes light, that lead becomes gold, that the rejected becomes the redeemed. First, let us speak of aggression, of anger, of rage. This is, perhaps, the most commonly disowned trait, especially for those who were taught to be good, to be nice, to be acceptable. You learned very early that anger was dangerous, that it made people uncomfortable, that it drove them away. And so you buried it. You stuffed it deep into the bag. You became pleasant, accommodating. You learned to smile when you wanted to scream, to agree when you wanted to fight, to swallow the fire before it could burn. And for years, maybe decades, this worked. You were loved for your gentleness, praised for your patience, valued for your willingness to never make waves. But inside, the anger did not disappear. It accumulated. It fermented. It became toxic. It leaked out in passive aggression, in sarcasm, in sudden explosions over tiny things, in migraines, in stomach problems, in depression, because depression is often anger turned inward. Anger at yourself for not being able to express what you truly feel. But now, in the albedo, you begin to see the truth. Anger is not the enemy. Anger is information. Anger is the psyche's alarm system. It tells you when a boundary has been crossed, when your needs are being ignored, when something is wrong. Anger is the voice that says, "No, this is not acceptable." And when you reclaim it, when you integrate your aggression, something miraculous happens. You discover the power to protect yourself, the power to set boundaries, the power to say no without guilt, without apology, without collapse. Your anger becomes discernment. It becomes your backbone, your spine, the part of you that will not be walked over, the part that knows its worth, the part that can stand in its own authority and say, "This far, no further." And relationships paradoxically become healthier because people can trust you. They know where you stand. They know that if they cross a line, you will tell them. You are no longer a doormat, no longer endlessly accommodating. You are real, and real is what creates genuine intimacy. This is the gold in the aggression, the fierceness that protects, the strength that holds the line, the warrior energy that says, "I matter, my needs matter, and I will defend what is sacred to me." Next, let us speak of chaos, of messiness, of wildness, of the untamed, unpredictable, uncontrollable force that lives in the shadow. You were taught to be orderly, organized, disciplined, controlled. There is great value in these things. But for some, the demand for order became absolute. You learned that spontaneity was dangerous, that unpredictability was bad, that anything outside the plan was threatening. And so you buried your chaos, your randomness, your capacity for surprise. You became rigid, scheduled, every hour accounted for, every emotion managed, every impulse suppressed. You built a life of perfect control, but it felt lifeless, empty, like living in a museum where nothing is allowed to move. What you didn't realize is that chaos is not the opposite of order. It is the source of creativity. All art, all innovation, all genuine originality comes from chaos, comes from the unplanned, the unexpected, the uncontrolled. Think of a jazz musician improvising. They do not know what note will come next. They are riding the chaos, surrendering to the flow. And what emerges is magic, is beauty, is something that could never have been planned. Or think of a child playing, building, destroying, rebuilding, making a mess, laughing, completely absorbed. This is chaos. This is the wild mind. And it is where aliveness lives. When you reclaim your chaos, when you integrate this wild energy, you rediscover play. You rediscover flow. You give yourself permission to make a mess, to try things that might not work, to follow your curiosity even when it doesn't make sense. Your creativity explodes because you are no longer editing yourself before you begin. You are no longer demanding that every idea be perfect. You allow the chaos to generate, and then later you can apply order. You can shape it, refine it, but first you must let it be wild. This is the gold in the chaos, the creative fire, the innovative spark, the capacity to break the mold and discover something new. The artist who is buried beneath the need for control finally comes alive. And finally, let us speak of Eros, of desire, of the body, of appetite, of the raw, pulsing, hungry life force that was perhaps the most dangerous thing to feel. Eros is not only sexuality, though it includes sexuality. Eros is the force that reaches toward, that wants, that hungers, that says yes to life. It is vitality itself, the opposite of death, the opposite of numbness, the opposite of the safe, controlled, acceptable life. But you learned that desire was shameful, embarrassing, something to hide. You learned to suppress your appetites, to minimize your needs, to pretend that you didn't want as much as you did. You became appropriate, restrained, civilized. But inside, you are slowly dying, slowly going numb. Because when you cut off Eros, you cut off your connection to life. You cut off your ability to feel pleasure, to feel excitement, to feel that electric aliveness that makes existence worth living. You become a ghost, going through the motions, but never truly here. When you reclaim Eros, when you integrate your desire, your body, your hunger, everything changes. Colors become brighter. Food tastes better. Music moves you. Touch awakens you. You feel the blood in your veins, the breath in your lungs, the pulse of being alive. Your relationships deepen because you are no longer withholding. You are no longer performing. You are present, available, capable of genuine connection. You can look someone in the eye and let them see your desire, your interest, your aliveness. And this is magnetic. This is what draws people toward you. And your sexuality, your creative sexuality, your erotic imagination becomes a source of power. Not power over, but power with. The power to create, to connect, to generate, to bring things into being. Eros is the force that makes babies, that makes art, that makes anything new. This is the gold in Eros, the vitality, the juice, the life force that was always there waiting for permission to flow. The body reconnected, the senses reawakened, the capacity to say yes to life. Do you see? Do you see the pattern? Every quality you rejected contains its opposite, contains its gift. The aggression becomes boundary. The chaos becomes creativity. The desire becomes vitality. The lead was always gold. You just couldn't see it in the dark. Jung said something radical, something that upends everything we are taught. He said, "I'd rather be whole than good. Let that land. I'd rather be whole than good." Not good in the sense of moral, but good in the sense of acceptable, nice, approved of. He was saying that wholeness matters more than the persona. That integration matters more than the mask. That being real matters more than being liked. This is a revolution, because we spend our entire lives pursuing goodness, trying to be better, trying to overcome our flaws, trying to fix what is wrong with us. And Jung says, stop. Stop trying to be good. Start trying to be whole. Wholeness includes the shadow. Wholeness includes your anger, your greed, your laziness, your pettiness, your cruelty, your shame, all of it. Not acting on it mindlessly, but acknowledging it. accepting it, integrating it, knowing that it is there and that it is part of being human. And there is such relief in this, such profound relief, because the pursuit of perfection is exhausting. It is a war you cannot win. No matter how hard you try, there will always be something wrong, some part that needs fixing, some flaw that needs eradicating. But wholeness is different. Wholeness says you are already complete, not perfect, not enlightened, not without problems, but complete. All the pieces are there. You just need to stop fighting them. You just need to turn around and bring them home. This is the peace of the albedo, the lightning, the moment when the burden begins to lift, when you realize that you don't have to keep running, you don't have to keep fighting, you don't have to keep pretending. You can just be all of you, the light and the dark, the gold and the lead, the angel and the beast. And when you stop the exhausting work of splitting yourself, when you stop the constant monitoring, the judging, the rejecting, energy returns. Massive energy. The energy you were using to wage war against yourself is now available for creation, for love, for life, for whatever you truly want to do. You become simpler, more direct, more honest, because you are no longer hiding. You are no longer managing your image. You are just you. And paradoxically, people trust this. They relax around you because they can sense that you are not pretending, that you have made peace with your humanity. And this gives them permission to do the same. This is the gold, not perfection, not transcendence, not some elevated spiritual state, but groundedness, realness, the capacity to stand in your full humanity without apology, without shame, without the endless, exhausting need to be more than you are. The alchemists spent lifetimes in their laboratories, heating, cooling, dissolving, coagulating, trying to turn lead into gold. And some say they failed, that it was impossible, that the gold was never physical. It was always symbolic. The gold was consciousness. The gold was wholeness. The gold was the integrated self. The person who has descended into their own darkness and emerged not destroyed but transformed. Not perfect but real. Not good but whole. This is the treasure. This is what the hero finds at the end of the journey. Not a trophy, not an achievement, but themselves, their full selves, reclaimed, redeemed, integrated. And you are on this journey, right now, tonight, as you listen, as you rest. The alchemical process is happening. The darkness is becoming conscious. The lead is transforming. The gold is emerging. Trust this. Trust the process. Trust that what you are feeling, what you are facing, is not random. It is purposeful. It is the psyche's intelligent self-healing mechanism. It is the soul trying to become whole. You are not broken. You have never been broken. You have only been incomplete, fragmented, split. And now the pieces are coming together. The gold is rising from the darkness. The light is dawning after the longest night. This is the albedo. This is the widening. This is the beginning of the return. And ahead lies the final stage. The union. The marriage. The moment when shadow and light become one. When you finally meet yourself. Whole. Complete. Real. Rest now. Rest in this knowing. The gold is here. It was always here. Hidden in the dark. Waiting for you to find it. We have descended through the layers. We have witnessed the projection. We have walked through the dark wood. And now we arrive at the threshold. The place where transformation becomes possible. Jung gave us a practice, a technique he called active imagination, not meditation in the Eastern sense, not passive observation, but something more dangerous, more intimate, more real. Active imagination is the art of dialoguing with the unconscious, of meeting the figures that live beneath awareness, of giving them form, voice, presence, and allowing them to speak. This is not pretending. This is not fantasy. This is the psyche made visible, the unconscious given permission to reveal itself. And what it reveals will change you. But first, we must create the container, the safe space, the sanctuary where such meetings can occur. Jung called this the temenos, the sacred precinct, the protected circle within which transformation can happen. So now, with me, we will build the inner room. We will construct the still point, the place that exists only in you, the place where you are completely safe, completely sovereign, completely held. Begin by imagining that you are walking, not in the outer world, but in the landscape of your own psyche. You are moving through a forest, an ancient forest. The trees are older than memory. Their roots go down into the underworld. Their branches reach up into mysteries you cannot name. The path beneath your feet is soft. Moss. Layers and layers of moss. It absorbs the sound of your footsteps. You move in silence. The only sound is your breath and the distant, almost imperceptible whisper of wind through leaves. and ahead you see it. A structure, small, humble, made of stone, very old stone, weathered, covered in lichen, green and silver. The stones fitted together without mortar. Ancient craftsmanship, the kind that has been forgotten by the modern world. This is your sanctuary. This is the still point, the place that has always existed, waiting for you to find it. You approach the wooden door, heavy, dark oak, the grain deep and swirling. There is an iron handle, cold to the touch, smooth from centuries of hands. You place your hand on the metal. You feel the weight of the door, and you push it open. It swings without sound, and you step across the threshold into the inner room. The first thing you notice is the silence, not the absence of sound, but the presence of profound quiet, the kind of silence that holds you, that wraps around you like a blanket, that makes everything slow down. The walls are stone, the same ancient stone as the exterior, but here inside you can see them more closely. You can see the texture, the roughness, the slight dampness. The walls are cool when you touch them. They smell of earth, of time, of safety. There are no windows. This is an interior space, a womb, a chamber removed from the outer world. The only light comes from a fire, a small fire in a stone hearth against the far wall. The fire is not large, but it is steady, consistent. The flames flicker in shades of orange and gold and deep red. You can hear the soft crackling, the gentle popping of burning wood, and the smell is cedar and pine and something else, something older, sweeter, like incense but not incense, like memory made tangible. The floor is also stone, but covered in places with thick rugs, woven rugs, in patterns you cannot quite decipher. Deep reds, midnight blues, threads of gold. The rugs are soft, warm. You can feel them through your feet. Or perhaps you are already sitting, already resting. In the center of the room, there is a low table, simple wood, dark and smooth, and on the table, a clay cup filled with water, clear water. You can see the firelight reflecting on its surface. And there are cushions, large cushions, against the walls, places to sit, places to rest, to wait. This room asks nothing of you. It simply holds you. It exists for one purpose: to be a place of safety, a place of meaning, a place where the impossible becomes possible. Feel yourself settling here. Feel your breath slowing. Feel your body relaxing into the warmth, into the silence, into the knowledge that here in this space you are protected. Nothing can reach you. Nothing can harm you. This is your sovereignty, your inner temple, your still point. And now that the sanctuary is established, now that you are held, we can proceed. We can invite the encounter. Because there is another door across from where you sit. You hadn't noticed it before, but now you see it. Smaller than the door you entered. Older, made of darker wood, almost black, and it is closed. Behind that door is your shadow, the one you have been running from, the one you have been projecting, the one you have been dragging in the long bag. It waits on the other side, patient, knowing that eventually you would come. This is active imagination, not forcing, not controlling, but inviting, opening, allowing. And so, with intention, with courage, you speak, out loud or in the silence of your mind. You say, I am ready. I am ready to meet you. I am ready to see what I have refused to see. I am ready to know what I have denied. Come forward. I will not run. I will not look away. I will hold your gaze. And the door begins to open, slowly, not from your hand, but from the other side, from the inside, from the shadow itself. And a figure emerges, step by step, into the firelight, into your view. What does it look like? This is different for everyone. For some, the shadow appears as a stranger, a dark figure, cloaked, hooded, features obscured, menacing, unknown. For some, the shadow appears as a child, your child self, the one you abandoned, the one you rejected. Small, vulnerable, eyes filled with accusation, or sadness, or longing. For some, the shadow appears as a beast, a wolf, a serpent, a creature of instinct and appetite, wild eyes, sharp teeth, the animal you have been taught to cage. For some, the shadow appears as someone you know, a parent, a sibling, an ex-lover, the face of the projection, the person onto whom you have been casting your own darkness. And for some, the shadow appears as you, your exact double, but different, darker, freer, more alive, the version of you that could have been, the version you chose to bury. Look at it. Look at the shadow. Do not turn away. Do not close your eyes. This is the test. This is the initiation. Can you hold the gaze of what you most fear in yourself? Your heart may be pounding. Your breath may be shallow. Your body may want to flee. This is normal. This is the nervous system responding to threat. But remember, you are in the still point. You are safe. This figure cannot destroy you. It can only reveal you. Stay. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the fear. Stay with the revulsion, or the grief, or the shame. Whatever arises, let it arise. Do not push it away. Do not numb it. Feel it. Breathe through it. This is the fire of transformation. This is what burns away the false self. And now, when you are ready, you speak. You ask the first question, the question that opens the dialogue. You say, "Who are you?" And you wait. You listen, not with your ears, but with the deeper listening, the listening of the soul. And the shadow will answer, not always in words, sometimes in images, in feelings, in sudden knowing, but it will answer. You might hear, "I am the anger you never allowed. I am the rage at the unfairness, at the betrayals. I have been carrying this for you because you couldn't." Or, "I am the child you left behind, the one who wanted to play, who wanted to be wild, who wanted to be loved without conditions. You abandoned me to become acceptable, and I have been waiting." Or, "I am your power, your ruthlessness, your capacity to destroy. You were taught this was evil, but I am not evil. I am protection. I am the sword you refused to pick up." Or, "I am your hunger, your desire, your greed, your lust, for pleasure, for more, for everything. You called me shameful, but I am your aliveness. I am your yes." Listen, whatever the shadow tells you, receive it. Do not argue. Do not defend. This is not a debate. This is a revelation. And then you ask the second question, the question that goes deeper. You say, "Why have you been following me?" Again, you wait. You listen, and the shadow responds, "Because I am a part of you. Because you cannot become whole without me. Because every time you reject me, you reject yourself. Every time you project me onto others, you lose a piece of your own soul. I follow you because I belong to you. Or because you need me. Because the persona is not enough. Because the mask is suffocating you. Because somewhere deep down you know that you cannot live a full life with half of yourself locked away. or because I am trying to save you. Every symptom, every dysfunction, every addiction, every breakdown, these are not failures. These are messages from me to you. Wake up, turn around, stop running, come home. Feel the truth of this. Feel how exhausting it has been to keep the shadow at bay. Feel how much energy you have spent in denial, in repression, in projection, and feel how tired you are. And now, the third question, the most important question you ask. What gift do you hold for me? Because this is the secret. This is what Jung understood. The shadow is not only the problem, it is also the solution. Within the darkness, within the rejected, within the despised, lies the treasure, lies the gold, lies the very thing you have been seeking in the outer world. And the shadow speaks. I hold your energy, the vitality you have been missing, the fire, the passion, the aliveness. You have been so tired because I am here, locked away. Take me back, and you will feel alive again. Or, I hold your creativity, your art, your vision, the wildness that makes real art. You have been trying to create from the persona, but real creation comes from the depths. It comes from me. Or, I hold your authenticity, your truth, the version of you that is real, not performing, not pretending, not managing impressions, just real. And people will feel it. They will trust you because finally you are yourself. Or, I hold your strength, your boundaries, your no. You have been a doormat, accommodating, people-pleasing, because you locked away your aggression. But I am here, and with me you can finally stand your ground. You can finally protect what matters. Or, I hold your joy, your spontaneity, your capacity to play, to laugh, to be surprised. You have been so serious, so controlled, so responsible, but I remember how to dance, and I want to teach you again. Receive this gift. Let it land. Let it penetrate. This is not a metaphor. This is an actual transmission, an actual return of lost energy, of lost soul. And now, the final step, the union. Jung called it the Conjunction, the sacred marriage, the integration of opposites, the moment when shadow and light become one. You stand, or perhaps you extend your hand, and you say to the shadow, I receive you. I welcome you. I am sorry for the years I kept you in exile. I am sorry for the pain I caused by rejecting you. But now I understand. You are not my enemy. You are my lost brother, my lost sister, my lost self. Come home. We are one. And the shadow steps forward, closer into your space, and you do not flinch. You do not retreat. You open. You allow. And then the merging, the shadow begins to dissolve, not disappearing, but integrating, flowing into you, like water into water, like breath into lungs, like darkness into dawn. You might feel a warmth spreading through your chest, your belly, your limbs. You might feel a tingling, an aliveness, a returning of something that has been gone for so long. You might feel heavier, more substantial, more real, as if you are finally inhabiting your full body, your full self, no longer floating, no longer dissociated, but here, present, embodied. You might feel grief, deep grief, for all the years you spent divided, for all the energy you wasted in war with yourself. Let the tears come. They are medicine. They are the water that softens the hardened ground. You might feel relief, profound relief. The exhaustion of pretending is over. The burden of the persona is lighter. You can finally breathe. You can finally rest, because you are no longer at war. And you might feel power, not the power of domination, but the power of wholeness, the power that comes when you stop leaking energy, when you stop projecting, when you reclaim all the pieces you gave away. This is integration. This is what it feels like to become whole, not perfect, not enlightened, not transcendent, but whole, human, real, all of it, light and dark, gold and lead, angel and demon, all of it held in one body, one psyche, one integrated self. You look around, the still point, the fire still burns, the walls still hold, but something has changed. You have changed. You are not who you were when you entered. You are more. You are fuller. You are finally yourself. And you know that you can return here anytime. This sanctuary is always accessible, and the shadow is no longer behind a locked door. It is with you, in you, as you. This is the alchemical marriage, the union of opposites, the reconciliation of the split. This is what the mystics spoke of, what the alchemists symbolized, what Jung spent his life trying to articulate. You are the vessel. You are the laboratory. You are the gold emerging from the lead. You are the phoenix rising from the ash. You are the hole that was always there beneath the fracture. Rest now. Rest in this knowing. Rest in this wholeness. The work is not finished. The journey continues. But tonight, you have done the essential thing. You have turned around. You have opened the door. You have met your shadow. And you have brought it home. Let the fire burn low. Let the silence deepen. Let your breath slow into the rhythm of sleep. You are safe. You are whole. You are finally home. The journey is complete. You've traveled far tonight. Through shadows, through light, through depths most never see. Your mind has done its work. You can rest now. This is the still point. Your anchor in the sea of thought. A place you can always return to whenever the world becomes too loud. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trusting this space. For trusting yourself. Sleep well. Good night.